know every grammar rule in this language, every tense, every exception, and still freeze the second someone asks you a question in English.
Your mind goes blank, your heart starts racing, and the words just disappear. Sound familiar?
Today, we're telling you exactly why that happens. And here's the part that's going to surprise you. It has nothing to do with how much English you actually know.
Nothing. Zero. We've taught hundreds of students who could write perfect essays, who knew grammar rules better than some native speakers, and they still froze in real conversations.
So if that's you, stay with us. Because by the end of this episode, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in your brain when this happens. And more importantly, you're going to walk away with a real plan to fix it.
This isn't going to be another video telling you to just relax or just practice more. We're going deeper than that today.
Hi everyone, welcome to Talk Lia. I'm Lia.
And I'm Kevin. And honestly, Lia, this topic is personal for me too.
Oh really? Tell us.
Yeah, when I was learning Spanish years ago, I remember knowing the grammar perfectly. I could conjugate verbs in my sleep. But the second a real person looked at me and asked a question, my brain just shut down.
That's exactly the experience so many of our students describe. They study for months, sometimes years, and they still feel that panic the moment a real conversation starts.
And today, we're going to explain the actual psychology behind that. Not just the language part, the brain part.
By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 things. First, why your brain reacts this way even when you know the material. Second, the real difference between knowing English and performing English. And third, a practical method you can start using today to calm that panic and actually speak.
This is going to be one of our most useful episodes yet. So grab something to drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it.
Before we dive in, we want to hear from you. In the comments, tell us, does this happen to you? Do you freeze up even when you know the grammar? We read every comment, so don't be shy.
And if you're new here, welcome to the Talk Lia family. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future lessons like this one.
All right, Kevin, let's start with the big question. Why does this happen?
Let's get into it.
So here's the first thing we need to understand. There's a difference between 2 types of knowledge in your brain. There's what's called declarative knowledge, and there's procedural knowledge.
Okay, let's break that down simply. Declarative knowledge is facts you can explain, like the past tense of go is went. You know that fact, you can say it, you can write it on a test.
Right, but procedural knowledge is different. That's the ability to actually use something automatically, without thinking about it. Like riding a bike. You don't think, now I balance, now I pedal. Your body just does it.
And here's the problem. Most English learners spend years building declarative knowledge, grammar rules, vocabulary lists, textbook facts, but they never get enough practice turning that into procedural knowledge.
So when someone asks you a real question, your brain tries to access all those grammar rules consciously, in real time, while also listening, while also thinking about what to say. That's an enormous amount of mental work happening all at once.
It's like trying to ride a bike while also reading a manual about how bikes work at the same time. Of course you're going to wobble.
That's such a good way to put it. And here's the second piece. When your brain feels that overload, it doesn't just slow down. It actually triggers something called the stress response.
This is the part that really surprised me when I first learned about it. Your brain, in that moment, can't always tell the difference between this is a hard conversation and this is a real danger.
Exactly. From an evolutionary perspective, your brain is wired to protect you. So when you feel overwhelmed, even by something as harmless as a conversation, it can trigger a small version of the same fight or flight response you'd feel in a genuinely scary situation.
And that's why you get a racing heart, sweaty hands, or your mind going completely blank. It's not because you don't know English. It's because your brain has temporarily treated the conversation like a threat.
Let's make this really concrete with an example. Kevin, imagine you're at a job interview, speaking your second language.
Oh, I remember this feeling exactly. The interviewer asks a simple question, something like, "Tell me about your last job." And even though I know that vocabulary completely, my brain suddenly goes, wait, past tense or present perfect? Wait, what's the word for manager again? Wait, are they judging my accent?
All of that happening in like 2 seconds.
In 2 seconds. And by the time I finally start speaking, I've lost confidence in my own sentence before I even say it.
This is such a common pattern. It's not a knowledge problem in that moment. It's a processing and stress problem.
Here's a question for you, our listeners. Has this exact thing happened to you? Maybe not in an interview, but in a store, on a phone call, or talking to a stranger. Tell us about it in the comments. We want to hear your story.
Now, here's something important. This isn't just a soft psychological idea we're making up. There's real research behind this. Studies on second language anxiety show that learners often perform significantly worse on speaking tasks under stress, even when their actual language ability, tested in low-pressure settings, is much higher.
So the gap isn't your English. The gap is what happens to your English under pressure.
That's the whole idea in one sentence. Let's pause here and do a quick summary before we move into the solution. Your brain has two types of knowledge, facts and automatic skills. Most learners only build the facts. When you're forced to perform in real time, your brain gets overloaded, and that overload can trigger a stress response that blocks the words you actually know.
Okay, but here's the part almost nobody talks about, and this is honestly the most important part of this whole episode. The real reason isn't even about language at all.
Say more about that.
So, if the problem is stress and processing overload, not vocabulary or grammar, then the solution can't just be study more grammar. That's treating the wrong problem.
Right, and that's exactly why so many advanced learners still feel nervous. They keep adding more declarative knowledge, more rules, more vocabulary, but they never train the procedural side, the automatic, low-stress side.
It's like someone trying to become a better swimmer by reading more books about swimming technique instead of actually getting in the water.
That's such a perfect comparison. So now let's talk about what actually works. This is the part where we give you real practical tools.
The first tool is something called low-stakes repetition. This means practicing speaking in situations where there's genuinely nothing to lose.
For example, talking to yourself out loud while cooking, recording a voice memo describing your day, or speaking with a language partner who you know won't judge you. The goal isn't perfect grammar in these moments. The goal is training your brain that speaking English doesn't equal danger.
This is so important because every time you speak without that stress response firing, you're literally teaching your nervous system this is safe. Over time, that response gets weaker.
The second tool is what we call pre-built phrases. Instead of trying to build every sentence from scratch in real time, which uses a lot of mental energy, you prepare and practice common phrases in advance until they become automatic.
Things like, let me think about that for a second, or that's a great question, give me a moment. These aren't just filler. They're buying your brain time without creating awkward silence, and because you've practiced them, they come out smoothly even when you're nervous.
It's like having a few automatic responses ready, so your brain isn't starting completely from zero every single time.
The third tool, and this one might surprise you, is slowing down on purpose. A lot of learners think fast speaking equals fluent speaking, so they rush, which actually increases mistakes and panic.
But native speakers pause all the time. They say, they take a breath, they think. Giving yourself permission to slow down actually reduces the stress response because you're not racing against an imaginary clock.
Let's do a quick practice right now. I'm going to ask Lia a question, and Lia, I want you to practice pausing on purpose before answering, just to show our listeners what this sounds like.
Okay, go for it.
Lia, what's one thing that surprised you about teaching English?
That's a good question. Let me think for a second. I think what surprised me most is how much confidence matters more than perfect grammar.
See that? That pause wasn't awkward at all. It actually sounded natural and thoughtful.
Exactly. And that's available to you too, in your own conversations. You're allowed to pause. Try it yourself right now. Think of a question someone might ask you and practice saying, let me think about that, out loud before answering.
Let's quickly review these three tools before we move forward. 1. Low-stakes repetition, practicing in situations with nothing to lose. 2. Pre-built phrases, automatic responses that buy you thinking time. 3. Slowing down on purpose, giving yourself permission to pause like native speakers do.
Now, let's talk about something else that connects to this. Formal versus informal speaking situations, because the pressure changes a lot depending on context.
This is so true. Talking to a close friend feels completely different from talking to your boss or a stranger, or in a job interview.
In informal situations, like chatting with a friend, the stakes feel lower, so the stress response is usually smaller. That's actually why people often say they speak English better with friends than in important situations.
But in formal situations, the brain adds an extra layer of pressure. I need to sound professional. I need to make a good impression. That extra pressure increases the chance of freezing.
So here's a real-life tip. If you have an important English conversation coming up, an interview, a presentation, a meeting, practice the content first in a low-stakes way. Say it out loud to yourself or to a friend before the real moment.
This trains your brain to associate that specific content with calm, not panic. So when the real higher stakes moment comes, your brain has already practiced that pathway.
That's such a practical tip. Let's give you a quick activity related to this. Think of one English conversation you're nervous about. Maybe a future interview, a phone call, anything.
Now write 3 sentences in the comments that you would actually say in that situation. Practicing it here, in a completely low-stakes place, is exactly the kind of training we're talking about.
We genuinely want to see your sentences, so please write them, even if they're not perfect. That's the whole point.
Let's review the key structural points before we move into common mistakes. We've covered the difference between declarative and procedural knowledge, the stress response and why it blocks fluent learners specifically, and 3 real tools: low-stakes repetition, pre-built phrases, and pausing on purpose.
Now, let's talk about the mistakes people make when trying to fix this, because honestly, even well-meaning advice can sometimes make this worse.
This is important because some common advice out there is actually counterproductive.
Mistake number 1. People are told just study more grammar when they freeze up speaking. But as we explained, the problem usually isn't grammar knowledge, it's processing under stress. So adding more grammar study without speaking practice doesn't fix the actual issue.
Mistake number 2. People avoid speaking until they feel ready. But readiness for speaking isn't something that arrives through studying alone. It's built through actual speaking practice, even uncomfortable practice. Avoiding it keeps the stress response strong instead of weakening it.
Mistake number 3. People judge themselves harshly after a nervous conversation, telling themselves, I'm just bad at this. But here's the thing. That self-criticism actually increases anxiety for the next conversation, creating a cycle.
Mistake number 4, and this is a big one. People compare their speaking performance under pressure to their writing or reading performance, which happens without pressure. That's not a fair comparison. Those are genuinely different skills, processed differently in your brain.
Let's be honest for a second. Kevin, have you made any of these mistakes?
Oh, definitely mistake number 3. I used to leave conversations in my second language replaying every mistake in my head for hours afterward.
I think almost everyone has done that. And here's the truth. That habit doesn't help you improve. It just makes the next conversation scarier.
So here's a better approach. After a nervous conversation, instead of criticizing yourself, try asking, what's one thing that went okay? Even something small. This retrains your brain to associate speaking with small wins instead of only failure.
That's such an important reframe. Let's do a quick practice for each mistake. For mistake 1, instead of opening a grammar book right now, try speaking 1 sentence out loud about your day. For mistake 2, if you've been avoiding a conversation, write in the comments what that conversation is.
For mistake 3, think of the last time you spoke English and felt nervous and try to name one thing that actually went fine. And for mistake 4, remind yourself, speaking under pressure is a separate skill from reading or writing, and it improves with its own specific practice.
Remember, struggling with this doesn't mean you're bad at English. It means you're human, and your brain is doing exactly what brains are designed to do under pressure.
Every single fluent speaker, including native speakers learning a new skill in life, has gone through some version of this. You are not behind. You're exactly where this process normally takes people.
Now, let's move into something fun, a quick interactive practice section where we apply everything we just learned.
All right, everyone, here's how this works. I'll describe a real-life situation, and I want you to pause the video and actually speak your answer out loud using the tools we just gave you: pausing, pre-built phrases, and not rushing.
Situation 1. A stranger asks you, what do you do for work? Pause now and answer out loud. And remember, it's okay to start with, let me think, if you need to.
Situation 2. Someone asks, what did you do last weekend? Try answering using one pre-built phrase first, like, oh, that's a good question, before you continue.
Situation 3. In a meeting, someone asks for your opinion suddenly. Practice pausing for 2 full seconds before responding, on purpose, even if you already know what to say.
Situation 4. A friend asks you to explain something slightly complicated, like a recipe or direction somewhere. Practice slowing down deliberately, even if it feels too slow at first.
How did that feel? For a lot of you, that probably felt a little uncomfortable, and that's completely normal. Discomfort here is a sign that you're training a new pattern, not a sign that something is wrong.
The goal today isn't perfect sentences. The goal is proving to your own brain that speaking, even imperfectly, even slowly, is safe.
Let's bring everything together now as we wrap up this episode.
So today we learned that freezing up in English conversations usually isn't about grammar knowledge at all.
It's about the gap between knowing facts and being able to use them automatically under pressure.
We talked about the stress response, why your brain can react to a hard conversation almost like it's a real threat, and why that blocks words you actually know perfectly well.
And we gave you 3 real tools: low-stakes repetition to retrain your nervous system, pre-built phrases to buy yourself thinking time, and pausing on purpose instead of rushing.
We also talked about common mistakes, like overstudying grammar instead of practicing speaking, avoiding conversations until you feel ready, being too harsh on yourself afterward, and unfairly comparing speaking under pressure to reading or writing.
If you take just one thing from this episode, let it be this: the nervousness you feel isn't proof that your English isn't good enough. It's proof that you're a human brain reacting normally to pressure, and that response can absolutely be retrained with practice.
So here's a question for you to think about, and we genuinely love your answer in the comments. What's one small, low-stakes way you could practice speaking English this week? Something with truly nothing to lose.
Maybe it's talking to yourself while you cook, recording a voice note, or chatting with a patient friend. Tell us your plan below. We'll be reading through the comments.
If this episode gave you something valuable today, please like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and make sure you're subscribed to Talk Lia so you don't miss what's coming next.
We genuinely believe this episode could change how you think about your own progress, so if it helped you even a little, let us know.
You are capable of so much more than that nervous moment makes you feel. Be patient with yourself, keep practicing in small, safe ways, and the confidence will come.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Take care of yourself, keep speaking, even imperfectly, and we'll see you very soon.
See you next time.